Winter 2026 has reached its conclusion, and following shortly will be the spring anime season. With that comes a list of anime titles to criticize, slander, and maybe choose to watch. If you were to define spring 2026 by one thing, it would be a season of sequels, whether that's returning shows that haven't aired for a while or a prequel that was recent. So much of the season will be defined by them. I won't be defending your favorite trash anime, though a large chunk of them are getting placed into skip. Go ahead and lie to me about how you're going to watch every single one this season, but I'm not going to pretend all anime are created the same. Despite those of us being chronically online, there's only so many shows you can watch while juggling life and responsibilities. I can't help being uninterested in things with little community interest, like Replica, anime that have genres or themes that don't suit my taste, so gooner anime like Yoa Yawa Teacher or loser bait like Gals Can't Be Kind to Otaku, they don't make the cut. Then there are continuations of something I either never watched, I'm looking at you Ascendants of a Bookworm, or the prequel failed to keep me interested, which would be things like Dr. Stone or Wisteria Wand and Sword. But enough yapping, let's get into it. Let me know in the comments the anime you're most or least looking forward to this season and what I got wrong on my tier list. The first anime on the list to look at is Rooster Fighter. Someone had actually shown me the trailer before I'd really looked into spring, since it's such a ridiculous concept. It doesn't take itself too seriously. I mean, the main character's a rooster that thinks it's a hero after all. I'll try it out, maybe get a laugh out of it, but in general, I expect Rooster Fighter to be bad. I'm aware for this one that this is an unpopular opinion to have. However, I find that Classroom of the Elite isn't all that great of an anime, and this is the 4th season of it. I'd hoped for this to be some sort of psychological warfare between the classes that fills me with uncertainty over who will come out victorious. Unfortunately, every single season let me down by devolving into nothing more than a glorified glazing session for Ayano Koji's intelligence, where he comes out victorious. So much of the story is told through his perspective, and when our main character himself is uninterested in the events going on around him, in addition to expulsion not really being a legitimate threat to him, it's hard for me to feel engaged. And then you look at the supporting cast. They're completely dependent on Ayano Koji and haven't shown any meaningful character growth. Classroom of the Elite 4th season, second year first semester is likely to be average, with a cliffhanger at the end, but for me, I don't expect to watch any sequels after this. Bad tier. Following that up is Eren The Southpaw. The anime gives me Barakamon vibes, where an artistic main character seeks to find or reinvent themselves after a setback to their art. The cover image sets the tone that Koichi is at a crossroads in his life, with multiple paths he could take, and that does intrigue me. There's not a lot of community interest behind it, and the source material is so unknown it doesn't even have a rating on Mal, so it's a shot in the dark at how well it's going to actually be. I want to give Eren The Southpaw a chance, but it has an uphill battle to face, so something to prove. I can't really say that Marriagetoxin gets me excited. The setup seems to bait you into thinking Hikaru teaming up with Mei will actually help him find marriage, but through their interactions over time, they actually fall for one another. Not a horrible idea, opposites attract, enemies to lover kind of thing, but these forced romance premises often leave a lot to be desired. I also kind of expect the story to try and use the absurdity to try and be funny, which is another point against it for me. I'd have to say Marriagetoxin is going to be average. The Angel Next Door spoils me rotten season 2. I really enjoyed the first season of this. Now it might seem hypocritical after I just complained about forced romance with Marriagetoxin. Hear me out though. The type of event that brings characters together, the immediate intent, and why they keep interacting afterwards are huge at defining if it's that type of romance or not. The Angel Next Door spoils me rotten's character goals, spending time together off rip, isn't to have a relationship. It's something that emerges over time. My only criticism is that this would be better suited for a college setting instead of a high school one. Other than that, I'm excited to see Fujimiya and Shinya's relationship develop further. This is the first banger on the tier list. We're not through the bulk of the romance for this season just yet. We've got another one following what we've already gone over. The Ramparts of Ice is from the creator of You and I Are Polar Opposites that just finished airing last season. For this title, I'm hesitant to say I'm interested in it. What immediately jumps out at me is the theme Love Polygon is at play here, which I hate, in addition to the synopsis crediting so much of Koyuki's change to Minato being willing to reach out to her. I'm just not a fan of seeing a bunch of characters vying for the same one like they're a prize at an arcade. The Ramparts of Ice is going into something to prove, since I need to be proven wrong on that theme. The cover art for the Warrior Princess and the Barbaric King definitely has my attention. I see a dude in a cool coat, armor, white hair. He looks like that guy. Then I take a look at the previews and you've kind of lost me. The animation is pretty lacking and I wasn't looking for it to lean so heavily into comedic elements, especially seeing as the comedy is supposed to be coming from the main character Seraphina being surprised by something and then getting an overreaction out of her. Sorry to say after it started off on a good note, but the Warrior Princess and the Barbaric King is shaping up to be bad. Now this one is a bit like Rooster Fighter, where it got pretty popular online for having a pretty big absurdity in it. Petals of Reincarnation is the anime airing this season where Hitler has been reincarnated as a little girl in an anime. Now outside of that point, it does a poor job at creating a noteworthy first impression with its cover art. They kinda just look trashy. The previews do intrigue me. It's kinda weirdly animated. The only problem is, if I have to watch the entire anime and every character has red petals floating around their neck, that's gonna get annoying quick. I'm still on the fence with Petals of Reincarnation since I still don't really know what's going on. Is it a death game sort of thing? Something else? I don't know. So I'm gonna place it into something to prove. Farming life in another world is not bad, but it's not good either. The harem stuff is a bit overdone, and you kinda stick around because you're interested in the fantasy setting Hikaru's been reincarnated in. Season 2, you get to live another day. Since I make trash rules for myself, like I have to give new seasons of anime I rated the previous season of 5 a chance. It'll probably be bad though. If you're wondering why Demons of the Shadow Realm has so much community interest during a season of sequels, then look no further than who the mangaka is. From the creator of Full Metal Alchemist comes this. Now there are some reservations I have around this from the synopsis and previews, but I can say I'm much more willing to put my faith in a story from someone that's made one of the best stories of all time rather than a nobody. Circling back to those reservations, I'm a big hater of genre blending, so seeing modern or futuristic technology mixed with fantasy and mythological elements, I pull back. It's hard to have one not overpower the other. Demons of the Shadow Realm, I'm gonna give it solid. There should be enough here for me to enjoy, and I just hope the genre blending isn't too in your face. Now, Agents of the Four Seasons Dance of Spring is on the other end of this, where I'd expect more community interest. This is from the creator of Violet Evergarden, and since people care so much about studios, and this is from Wit, so you'd think people would have more faith. I will say this doesn't give off the impression that there's action in it, but when you watch the trailers, you see that that is the case. I expect this to be much more drama focused with the dynamics between the Agents of the Seasons, especially the one representing Spring since she ran away, but the action just throws the vibe off enough where I'll need this anime to prove something. Hat Atelier, this is a big one for me, and my most anticipated watch of the season, maybe even the year. I think over a year ago, Giguk made a video that really sold me on the premise of it. I'm a sucker for fantasy, wasting probably a bit too much time engaging with mid-tier ones, hoping to be given the opportunity to experience a good one. So this one being quality is kind of a no-brainer for me to. Previews show off great animation, maybe even the best of the season, and I'm really excited for a high fantasy setting. There's different levels to fantasy. You have level 1 where the houses are medieval, but then you step up in level and you have my house shaped like a pointy wizard hat type of high fantasy, and that's that classy shit. Really my biggest takeaway from forming my first impression of the anime Hat Atelier is that this is much more focused on exploring magic and how it works. Obviously mentioning that, and in fantasy you look to something like Frieren that second season just aired where magic plays a big role, but in that case it's much more about the journey of Frieren and the character connections that she makes with others. With that, all this hyping Hat Atelier up, it's a given at this point I'm dropping it into bangers. Akane-Banashi looks to be an anime about Rakugo, which is someone from the West. I see it as an interesting and unique form of storytelling. I'm really interested to see what type of story is going to be told. Is it going to try and be too much like Showa Genroku Rakugo Shinju? Maybe something like Chihaya Furu? Or is it going to manage to carve out its own spot in the anime landscape? I do worry a bit with the revenge elements from Akane being a bit too similar to Showa Genroku, but it's not like the concept of revenge belongs solely to one story. That's a lot of hedging just for me to gamble that I think Akane-Banashi is going to be solid. Following that is Even a Replica Can Fall in Love. To be honest with this title, it comes across as something you won't really know if it's good or not until you start to watch it. Will it be a weird love triangle for Sanada? What the heck is this replica thing even about? Lots of questions, and the synopsis and previews don't really tell you much. Maybe it ends up performing better than I think it will, but for now it's safe to say Even a Replica Can Fall in Love will be average. I made friends with the second prettiest girl in my class. I mean, I don't even know who this character is, and we're already putting her down in the title. I don't know if it was necessary to immediately put down a character I don't know anything about, but my impression outside of that is that the anime seems to be a slow burn romance through shared interests, so maybe it's a good story to tell. The trailer does irritate me that it could be trying to do a love polygon, so I'll have to take points away for that. I made friends with the second prettiest girl in my class is going into something to prove. Earlier, I discussed in two different sections the influence on opinion when a well-known creator is connected to a work. The problem here for me with Mao is the pacing we often see with anime tied to Takahashi Rumiko's works. That old, slow, drawn-out shonen formula does not work for me in the modern era. Maybe my brain is cooked from watching short-form content, but I can't do it with this old formula. There's also the fact with Mao, unfortunately, it feels like it's chasing the defining elements of Inuyasha, which does create some cause for concern. I like the animation, so there is that, but I can't find it in me to reasonably place Mao higher than something approved. Even though I got obliterated for my take on that time I got reincarnated as a slime season 3, I'm standing on business once again to say this anime has become a yapping fest. Sure, there was always talking, but you can try and give me all the excuses in the world about how last season was setting up the next season, but I'm barely holding on interest to this show as it is. There's so many better ways to convey information without coming across as dull. Are we going to pretend something like Jujutsu Kaisen doesn't have a lot of exposition or using dialogue to convey cursed techniques to people? I get if you felt attacked and didn't want to accept the truth. From everything the Copers have said, this should be a good season. For me though, I think that's kind of delusional, and Slime Isekai Season 4 is going into average. The back-to-back most popular anime for spring 2026, huh? Re:Zero starting Life in Another World Season 4. This is definitely one of the best isekai, and its previous season had its ups and downs with the slow start, but I enjoyed seeing all the Vine princess factions come together against the witch's cult to defeat them in Pristella. It had been a while since the show had done anything with the princesses, so it was nice to learn much more about them. Seeing their motivations and the conviction of their knights, and man, that city got tore up. It's also fascinating to see over time Subaru not die as much, which made the stakes of Season 3 feel so much more terrifying. Re:Zero Season 4, you're gonna get the banger treatment. I'm curious to see where this story is headed. On the topic of isekai, I guess the beginning after the end is getting a second season. In the past, I heard crazy comparisons like this is what Mushoku Tensei should have been, and how great the webcomic is, but the anime hasn't shown any of that, and that's what we're talking about. It comes across very flat, low stakes, and whatever supposed inner battles Arthur is dealing with doesn't emotionally come across the screen, instead feeling like generic power fantasy isekai slop. The sequel seems to be shaping up to be much more of the same, with poor animation continuing. The beginning after the end Season 2, I'm gonna have to go bad tier. We've been on the isekai train for a couple of titles, so moving to this one, I Wanna End This Love Game offers a break from that. It's looking like it might be something good, especially going off the manga reception. Obviously, I've went in on the concept of forced romance a couple times this video, but if you think about it, if the characters were pushed into developing a romance before the show began, can it really be called that? I've been slacking on Dark Horse this season, so you know what? I'll give it to I Wanna End This Love Game. You sold yourself. Throwing around established studios or well-received mangas, it just happens all the time. And I mean, you have both here with Liar Game. Madhouse, in addition to being one of the most popular and well-ranked source materials of this season. Now what really has me interested is the high-stakes game, i.e. death game theme. This is just a fascinating, bizarre concept that not only is about pitting people against one another, but a social commentary on what horrors a human is willing to commit. Manga-wise, outside of Gambling Apocalypse Kaiji, Liar Game seems to be one of the OGs, which can mean we might get to experience the elements that later became tropes in its uncorrupted form. With Liar Game, we'll end the tier list on a high note with another dark horse. We've now placed all the anime on the tier list. Now, I began the video by saying this is the season of sequels, and I think that by now, that should be very evident to you. Of course, there are many I'll be watching and many I won't be, but at the end of the day, everyone's gonna watch what they watch. Maybe you don't like romance. Maybe you don't like seeing characters get hurt or deal with dark subject matter, or only want to see silly things to decompress after a long day. It's all down to opinion. Comment what you agreed with, what you didn't, and the best way to support me is liking the video and subscribing. With that, my first impressions of spring 2026 is done.